audit your day. It doesn't sound very sexy, but for 9 out of 10 people, I would literally place bets on this. Your inability to lose body fat, build muscle, be lean and tone, see the results that you want to see, and actually maintain them for life is a time management issue. But nobody wants to talk about that because it sounds so corporate, but it's the truth.
Let's link up with Krysta on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What's happening, FYX listeners? Welcome back to our latest episode of the FYX podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber. We're moving right through the month of September. We're already over halfway through with another solo episode from yours truly. And I want to give all of you listeners a shout out because I've had a couple of you guys message me in the last few weeks being like, make your episode longer. We want to hear more from you. And that is truly the highest compliment that I could ever get. So thank you for telling me that. And thank you for just affirming that we're obviously sharing really good value here on this podcast. And I appreciate all of you so much because it is that message that drives me to continue to do this every single week. But I keep it real with you guys, and I'm going to explain exactly why some of my episodes are shorter. And it's honestly for all good reasons, but because life is a little busy right now. In the past week, my brother proposed to his now fiance, and it was a busy week of getting ready for the celebration, planning their little parties, keeping it a secret for as long as we did. If any of you saw my Instagram post, we have been working on this since like February, and I got the chance to help my brother design the ring, and it was a really fun experience, something I did with my older brother as well when he got married. And I've just like had a lot of life happening, and I think this is important to bring up in the context of this episode and what I want to talk about today, because I want to point out that even with having a lot of life happening, I've still recorded a podcast, right? So I've obviously made an adjustment. I have had more solo episodes. It's been a little bit more logistically challenging to book guests when I have a lot more going on in my personal life. And sometimes I just don't always feel like I have that much more to say on a specific topic. And let's face it, I know I have a lot of clients and followers who are busy people who pack their schedules. And maybe sometimes you like that bite-sized piece. But what I want to really say here is that I hope that it reminds you that even when you're busy, if you make a commitment to something, you can still follow through on it by adjusting certain aspects of it. So taking the podcast as an example, I've just made my episodes a little bit shorter. I have hopped on here and done a solo because it's easier, because I can do it on my time when it works for me versus coordinating with somebody else's schedule. But I made the commitment to myself and thereby to you as a listener to continue to show up for these every single week. And absolutely 1000%, it helps that I enjoy doing this. And where I'm going with all of this is obviously to make the analogy to fitness to nutrition, because that's what I do best, is that yes, there are going to be aspects of your fitness and nutrition journey that maybe you don't like, that maybe feel a little bit frustrating. Let's talk about it in the context of when we're in a calorie deficit. Can you eat all of the things you want to eat all of the time and expect to see the results you want to see? No. Might you have to turn down events on occasion? That literally just happened to me this morning. My friend was like, let's go out and do something today. And I just said to her, I was like, look, I've been eating meals out for like the last 3 days. My digestion isn't feeling so hot. And while I love you, I'm just really tired. So in some situations, I might actually go with my friends and hang out and choose not to eat or drink and just have like seltzer or whatever, Diet Coke. But I also know how to listen to my body and know that it would be better for me to spend the day at home, getting ready for the week ahead, getting an early night's sleep, doing the errands I need to do, and what have it. and what have you, excuse me. But I say all this to just make the point that growth on your fitness journey is all about being flexible. But what does being flexible actually really mean? And it's very situational to you. So for me, it's this idea, again, just take the podcast example to take the fitness piece out of it. It's like, I promised myself that I would record these episodes and have an episode ready to go every single week. What do I need to do to make that happen? Sometimes it can be saying no to certain things in my schedule. Other times it could be making the episode shorter. Other times it could be not be having a guest, but I'm always following through on the commitment to show up and be here. And that's what allows me to continue to progress. That's what allows me to grow this audience. That's what allows me to hopefully also grow the Fitness Fix and bring in more clients and really at the biggest level, impact as many people as possible with free information about your mindset when it comes to achieving your goals. And that is really the segue into what I wanted to talk about today. And that's this idea that is probably the number one conversation or theme of a conversation that I have again and again in my DMs with potential clients and even with current clients, even conversations I have with myself. And that is this beautiful phrase of, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it. Ask yourself, take a second, pause for a minute. How many times have you said that? I can tell you I've said it countless times. In the last 4 years in particular, I've said it more times than not. And the reason why is because what it boiled down to was that I had other priorities. And as the Fitness Fix has continued to become a bigger company, as we've continued to support more people, I've realized that statement, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it, is in direct conflict with my integrity of leading by example, of being the coach who also puts into practice these systems and tools that I teach to our one-on-one clients. And that's actually something that's driven me to get away from this statement as much as possible and say, hey, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to continue to execute on it. How am I going to get from I'm just not doing it to how am I going to do it? That is what this episode should ideally answer for you. So if you're that person, and I think this is something that comes up a lot as you reflect on seasons of like the entire summer, where you can easily say, and I've talked about this on episodes over the last 3 months, hey, I'm socializing, I'm indulging, I'm traveling. Like, let me just kind of like adjust my goals. And some people say put them on the back burner. I would hope that you could take that a step further and actually recognize that you just weren't prioritizing them. And that statement hurts a little bit and it stings a little bit, but this is where we owe it to ourselves to be in integrity with ourselves and be real about that and recognize that you allowed schedules, work, travel, whatever it is, to trump you taking care of your fitness and nutrition. And that's actually no better way to say it, ass backwards, because what you could have done instead is everything I just described with how I'm approaching my podcast right now in this busier season of life by adjusting certain aspects of your plan. Now, where does this all come from? The lovely all or nothing mindset is definitely at play here in this sentiment of, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it. So what can you actually do instead? It's make adjustments like saying, hey, it feels daunting to me to track my food like for the whole day and track everything and weigh it and etc. Let me start by simply tracking my protein. Let me start by simplifying my meal choices so that I'm eating pretty much the same things every day. And if I know that those are my macro goal, those meals make up my macro goals and will help me hit them, I'm actually taking care of the question mark of whether or not I'm being consistent with my macronutrients and my calories. Boils down to, I could give more fitness examples, but it boils down to, can I look for ways to make this feel easier? Because you are keeping yourself stuck and keeping yourself in this feedback loop that is just a hamster wheel to be on of saying, yeah, like I know what I have to do, but I'm just not doing it. Like, what does that statement even do for us? And I don't say this out of a place of judgment because I've been the person to say this. It actually keeps us in a victim mentality. That's not where we want to be. That's not in alignment, in integrity with all of the other areas of your life. Let's take the example of career, because that's a strong one with those of you that I see this with. You give 150% in your career, in growing your business, in your position at work, because you want the promotion, you want to make more money, you want the accolades, you get satisfaction off of working hard. Why then can you not translate that same value into your health and your fitness? Because arguably, your health and your fitness is more important than the job itself. And here's why. Without your health and your fitness, what's the point? What's the point of anything without your health and your fitness? What's the point of being the best at your job? And further to that, what if, and this is one that should really light you up, you don't even realize that you're missing out on some of your potential because you're not taking care of your health and fitness. You don't even know, and maybe you do know. I'll walk that back for a second and say, you do actually know, because if there was a point in your life where you did prioritize these things and you were in your best shape ever, there is a part of you in making the statement, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it. There's a part of you that's playing the comparison game, right? Because there's a part of you that's saying, I used to be this certain way. I liked that person. I liked how I felt, hopefully, and I'd like to become that person again. So what you might want to recognize, and you might want to ask yourself, are you actually leaving things on the table? Are you leaving your potential on the table? If you're truly driven by having more success and working hard, are you actually missing out on an opportunity to see even more success because you are not your best self? Because we can all agree that you would be your best self if you took care of yourself on a regular basis. So let's ditch this whole, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it, and say, F that, because it truly is keeping you in the exact spot that you are right now. And I also feel that stating that you know what you need to do is just really unproductive, because it's kind of like saying, okay, if you know what you need to do, why aren't you doing it? And that's the big question that we need to answer. And I love this question. This is really the heart of what we get into inside of the Fitness Fix, because it's not about the knowing that you need to do it and the steps that we need to take. It's, why are you not taking those steps? It's, hey, I know, let's just use an example. And I have a good client example for this too, which I'm going to get into next. I know that I should track my food. Maybe you've done it in the past. You saw a lot of success with it. You were counting your macros. You were eating a high protein diet. And you were also getting to the gym at least 3 times a week, strength training, getting decent amount of sleep, and getting 8 to 10,000 steps a day. Beautiful. Really solid foundation, very good basics to always be able to master and continue to focus on at no matter what point in life you're at. We don't need to constantly go over those things because we've just agreed that you know what they are. What we need to figure out is, what's the gap between you actually doing them versus saying that, like, it sounds really nice in theory. What is it about your schedule? What is it about your routine? What is it about your mindset, specifically the stories that you're telling yourself, that you're not actually executing on those things? That's the juicy part of coaching, I think. That's the part of coaching where it's like really asking you to look at things in your mind, the way you see things, the beliefs that you hold, how you see the world, how you see yourself in the context of the world. And from there, we can come up with different strategies to merge that gap, make the distance between knowing what you need to do versus doing it a lot smaller. And it just be something that, as I've said on this podcast before, is a part of your identity. It's simply the way you show up on a regular basis, because you have realized that that is the best version of you, that you know that that is the best version of you. And the client example that I want to walk through, I actually put up on my Instagram stories the other day. And I'm really proud of this client. And I know she won't mind me sharing this. And that is one of my clients who's an entrepreneur. Her name is Nikki. If you're local to the Jersey Shore, she owns an amazing salon with her business partner, Kelly. It's called Willow Jade. It's right in Lake Como, near Spring Lake in Belmar. And Nikki came to me as a client who has had coaches before. She already knew how to track her food, but she identified with the fact that as an entrepreneur and as somebody who has grown her business by having the support of other coaches, she needed another coach in her life. She's even had other nutrition coaches in her life. But when it got down to us having conversations initially via DM and then eventually via Zoom, one of the comments that she made to me that really stood out and I'm very proud of was the fact that she had said that compared to other experiences she'd had with coaches before, I was just talking to her in a different way. And I was asking her different questions. So naturally, I was like, can you be more specific? I'd love to know what you mean by that. And so much of it was around how she saw herself and really getting to understand her schedule. Because at the time when we first started working together, she was in a position where she was managing her business and being a leader of her business, but also still acting very much as an employee in having a book of clients, being behind the chair, so to speak, and still acting as a colorist and a stylist. And the analogy that I could relate that to is like me coaching clients with a roster and also running the Fitness Fix as a business as well. It's required when you own your own business to wear multiple hats. But where so many entrepreneurs get this narrative wrong is we kind of throw ourselves on the sword and we say, okay, I need to do all these things. I have to grow my business. You feel the pressure of obviously providing for yourself financially. And in a lot of ways, you'll look at wearing all these hats as a method of saving money because your resources may be limited when you're first getting started. Or you may also have this belief that, well, I am the face of the business. I am the best coach. I am the coach that all of my original OG clients came to me for, and I want to keep them under my roster. I want to keep them on my book. So the feeling of giving them to somebody else, like, will they trust that person? What will that be like? Again, these are all stories. They're all stories that are driven by our ego. And this was a conversation that Nikki and I had multiple times because she would run me through her schedule. And if you work in any kind of service-based industry, you know how hard it can be to get meals in between clients because of, for all the same reasons that I just listed, you are packing your schedule, right? And then this all comes back to the word we love to say the most, stress. Your body is stressed. You're in this mode of the constant go, go, go all the time. So forget the idea of where are we going to fit your workouts in? Where are we going to fit your meals in? Your digestion is probably awful. Your sleep is crappy. And your body is just constantly, for everybody who's watching this video, all the way up here in this like state of like, we need to be on all the time instead of bringing you back down. So the real big picture is this then is not a conversation about macros. Nikki could have figured out her own macro targets. She had them saved in her MyFitnessPal from previous coaching. She understood the concept of a calorie deficit. And if you don't understand those things, I still want you to know that I would love to support you because that's a big piece of this too. It's just that once you reach certain levels of, again, maturity in your fitness and nutrition journey, and you start to notice that you know what you need to do, but you're not executing on it, I don't need to give you a whole nother education in macros 101. Can I give you tips and tricks about more effective ways to prep your meals that are faster? Can I give you tips and tricks about how to simplify the way you track your meals? 100% yes. And I think that then alleviates some of the stress that I'm talking about here because it rewires that story of, hey, I don't have time, but that's only going to get you so far because we're looking for your lifelong solution. The Fitness Fix is offering the last solution that you need. So you're not the person bouncing from coach to coach. So we need to get into, why are we not doing these things? And ultimately, in Nikki's case, to keep going with her story, that led us down a road of talking about what might it look like for her to pull back on certain aspects of her schedule. And in a unfortunate, but I will say huge silver lining turn of events, she had been struggling with some knee pain, knew at some point she would need an ACL surgery, and she went to go fix a chair in the salon. And when she bent down and stood back up, well, her knee had other plans. And that immediately thrust us into saying, hey, we cannot wait on the surgery and it needs to happen now. Since that time, Nikki has lost 10 pounds because she, first of all, leaned on me for support. We were stupidly consistent with our nutrition in that time, especially because she could not exercise, let alone had to spend time where she could not get off the couch and move her body because she was recovering from a major surgery. But where the silver lining in all of this was, is it actually forced her to totally change her schedule because she could not be behind the chair in this time. So what that allowed her to do was have a taste of what it would look like to manage her business in solely the leadership position versus wearing these dual hats. And her business has seen even more success. So that actually gave her the confidence to know, hey, I can start to adjust certain things in my role and I can start to design certain things in my day so that I prioritize me. But even more so, it allowed us to just focus in on her taking care of herself because she couldn't be there. So what we started talking about on a weekly basis was, hey, look at all these things we're doing with pre-planning our meals, meal prepping, making sure we're hitting our calorie targets every single day. And now she's since gotten back into the gym between physical therapy, doing some upper body days that I've written for her. We're in a really great spot. And that's why she's continued to see progress. But even more so, the important lesson that I've driven home to her for the past like 4 weeks, because she literally just transitioned to going back to being behind the chair, was one, what is that? What's your capacity? How many clients will you take on a regular basis? What will your schedule look like? How does it feel for you to maybe not go back to exactly the way things were before? And hey, if that feels uncomfortable, that's okay. What do we need to talk through to remind you that these are all positive things that are helping you move not only for growth of your business, but for yourself and you being your best self, because it's creating time and space for you to take care of you. And on top of that, what are we doing to guarantee that all of the habits and behaviors you were able to do under these circumstances where things were obviously just logistically easier because you were at home versus now we go back to the schedule from before? How can we take everything over here and under these new conditions still operate with those same principles? That right there is the difference between the Nikki who's already lost the weight and kept it off versus this past Nikki who's been on these yo-yo diets for years and years. And hopefully in hearing this example, if you're listening to this, you're like having a light bulb moment that makes you recognize, oh, maybe that's why I'm not getting the results that I'd like for myself. And then the reality actually becomes, you don't know what you need to do and you're just not doing it. You know the action steps, but what you don't know is how to apply it in 2 areas. You don't know how to apply it in the current season that you're in right now today, because if you did, you'd be doing it. And the second area is you don't know how to apply it for future you, where the circumstances will change. And Nikki, and this is why I say in some ways it was like both fortunate and unfortunate, actually had the chance to see both things in a very condensed period of time. And most of you out there find yourself in situations like I just described over very expansive periods of time, over years. And that's when you get to the point of saying, comparing like 5 years ago, you to the you are now, where you're asking yourself like, well, how did I get here? And it's hard for you to recognize that because it's this whole contrast of time moves like slow and fast at the same time. Like it's like the weeks go by like days, right? You couple that with the fact that everyone wants instant gratification and you really want to be able to see results as fast as possible. And then that's where we can take a step back and recognize, well, it's actually no surprise that you've gotten to where you are right now. And it's actually not a surprise that you think you know what you need to do, you know you're not doing it, and you just keep staying stuck in this exact instance. So naturally, I'm going to point out to you that the best solution would be to lean into some support for this, exactly like Nikki did. Working with the Fitness Fix is going to help you identify the gap between what you think and believe and know you should be doing versus what you're doing right now versus the person you want to be, what you think you should be doing over here that's just simply not happening. But you can also start just by paying more attention to the stories you're telling yourself, by paying more attention to what you're doing on a daily basis. What's getting in the way of you not going to the gym after work, even though you woke up on Monday morning saying, hey, tonight I am going to go to the gym? Start paying attention to that. Like, audit your day. It doesn't sound very sexy, but for 9 out of 10 people, I would literally place bets on this. Your inability to lose body fat, build muscle, be lean and tone, see the results that you want to see, and actually maintain them for life is a time management issue. But nobody wants to talk about that because it sounds so corporate, but it's the truth. And if you're saying to yourself, look, I don't really know where to start on paying attention to these gaps, I'll give you one example. And then, lucky you, I have a free resource that's going to help you do it. Let's go to this person who's saying, like, I'm going to make it to the gym after work. There's one of two things going on. You're either person A, who goes home and you're like, oh, I had a really long day, or maybe you work from home, you close your computer, and what's the first thing you do? You pick up your phone and you start a doom scroll and you're like, oh, I'll just do this for 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden 15 turns into 40. And now you're getting hungry. Your stomach kind of reminds you how long you've been scrolling here. You look at your phone to see what time it is. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to the gym now. Let me go make dinner. Or you're the person who says they're going to close their laptop at a certain time. And instead of closing your laptop at that time, you're like, let me just send one more email. So I've got my doom scroller and I've got my person who's diving into their emails. Neither one of those people, you chose different things, but your issue boils back down to how you are spending your time and lack of boundaries around either what you perceive as entertainment or your work. And that's what's leading you to not getting to the gym and building the habit and being able to check that box. And I can help you answer these questions for yourself in literally 90 seconds. I have an assessment for you to take to help you figure out which of these two people that I described you may be more like. And from there, what we'll offer you after taking this assessment is a solution that's personal to you to help you figure out how we can take these parts of your personality, these parts of your routine, these parts of your day-to-day to get you to better manage your time and therefore wind up becoming the person who not only knows what she needs to do, but the person who executes on it on a regular basis. So hop down to the show notes. The link for what I'm calling our fat loss factor quiz, that assessment is in there for you. It's literally 10 questions. They're all on a scale of 1 to 5. It'll take you not even 2 minutes to complete on your phone. And then you will get an email back from me with details on who you are, how that's impacting you from getting to where you want to go, and my exact recommendations. We will get the chance to hop on a call and talk about what we can do to change this for you. And that's all I got for you guys this week. Stay tuned for next week. I have a really cool, interesting special guest coming to the show. We're going to be talking about a very interesting and new topic to the supplement space and to understanding some things around what our body produces when it comes to fatty acids. I'm really excited for that, but that's all I got. So as always, from wherever you're listening from, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week.